I rise today to discuss facts and fiction. Recently, Fox News reporter Peter Doocy asked White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki about a Biden administration official's claim that Republicans have defunded the police.
The White House sticking to its script on defund the police, still accusing Republicans of being the party that is calling for it because the GOP voted against the stimulus bill. Our own Peter Doocy asking Press Secretary Jen Psaki for any evidence to back this up.
Which Republican ever said that they did not like the American Rescue Plan because they wanted to defund the police?
Well, first, let me just note that the president ran and won the most votes of any candidate in history on a platform of boosting funding for law enforcement after Republicans spent decades trying to cut the COPS program.
Are there any examples of Republican members of Congress saying they want to defund the police?
I think most people would argue that actions are more important than words.
Come on, that's a bunch of horse shit.
Ms. Psaki doubled down on the idea that it is Republicans and not Democrats who want to defund the police. When a White House press secretary gives a press briefing, you expect some spin. You expect some verbal bobbing and weaving if the topic is unflattering to the administration. But when Jen Psaki tried to blame Republicans for defunding the police, it wasn't spin. It was horse manure. It was gaslighting. For over a year, Democrats and left-wing activists have been calling over and over and over again to defund the police.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she sent out a message that reads in part, quote, defunding police means defunding police. It does not mean budget tricks or funny math. Fund policing continues.
And many Democrat-led city councils and Democrat mayors have done so, cutting and even slashing police budgets.
Calls to defund or even abolish the police have become top demands among protesters throughout the country, including here in New York City.
The defund police was shared right at the start of the protest, including from Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
But we need to completely dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department.
I support investing in communities so that they become more healthy and therefore more safe.
Mayor Bill de Blasio is planning on cutting the NYPD's budget in response to demands from protesters for change.
People did not protest for the sake of protest. They protest to achieve change, and now we must deliver that change.
The mayor talked about moving money from the NYPD and using it for social and youth services.
A big part of this conversation really is about reimagining how we do public safety in America, which I support.
We are committed to shifting resources to ensure that the focus is on our young people.
The City Council voting to approve Mayor Bill de Blasio's budget, which did strip away $1 billion from the NYPD's $6 billion budget.
So in many cities in America, over 1/3 of their city budget goes to police. So we have to have this conversation. What are we doing? What about the money going to social services?
But do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes.
Again, we need to reimagine how we are achieving public safety in America.
The only person calling to defund the police is Donald Trump.
As a result of those reckless policies, we are seeing a deeply concerning wave of violent crime in American cities across the country. The chief White House spokesperson blaming Republicans for defunding the police is like an arsonist showing up at the fire and blaming the firemen.
What?
It's like the Chinese Communist Party blaming America for the Wuhan virus.
Why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus? Why do you keep using this? A
Because
lot of
it
people
comes
say
from
it's
China.
racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate.
The chief White House spokesperson blaming Republicans for defunding the police, it's like OJ saying he's going to help find the real killer.
OJ killed everybody in that driveway. Let's just, to hell with all this. OJ killed both them people. Yeah, that's cool. He killed everybody over there.
That's like OJ saying he's going to help find the real killer. That's like Democrats saying they're the ones that want to build the wall.
What?
Let's look at the facts. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio, a Democrat, last summer pledged to cut the NYPD budget by $1 billion. And then he did so. New York City passed a budget that did indeed cut $1 billion from the police department. Just a couple of months ago, de Blasio was forced to backtrack. He realized what a terrible decision it had been because now he's working to reverse it. AOC, the darling of the extreme left wing, has said, quote, defunding the police means defunding the police. And quote, the fight to defund the police continues. And she's not alone. How about Representative Rashida Tlaib? She has called for, quote, no more policing. Stop and think about that for a minute. This is an elected Democratic member of Congress whose policy objective is no more policing. Those are her own words.
What?
Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib tweeted this: "It wasn't an accident. Policing in our country is inherently and intentionally racist. No more policing, incarceration, and militarization. It can't be reformed."
How about Representative Ilhan Omar? She has said, quote,
Not only do we need to defund, but we need to dismantle and start anew.
Talking about the reduction of our NYPD budget and defunding a $6 billion NYPD budget.
So yes, I support the defund movement.
I am for defunding the police.
Defund the police does not mean abolish the police.
Defunding police means defunding police. It does not mean budget tricks or funny math.
Well, maybe this is just a few fringe Democrats in the House of Representatives. Maybe it's not a broader policy of the Democratic Party. What about Joe Biden? Uncle Joe can't possibly support defunding the police, right?
I want my own ass.
What must be what?
But I want my own ass. I want my own ass.
What must be what?
Joe Biden nominated two of the leading advocates of abolishing the police, Vanita Gupta and Kristen Clark, to senior positions at the U.S. Department of Justice. One of them is the number 3 official at the Department of Justice. The other is the head of civil rights at the Department of Justice. Both had written as recently as last year explicit calls for defunding the police, and they got rewarded with helping run the Department of Justice. At the beginning of this hearing, Chairman Durbin asked you about abolishing the police, and you said, I do not support defunding the police, which is clearly the right political answer seeking to get confirmed. And stated, quote, some people call it defunding the police. Other people call it divest, invest. But whatever you call it, if you care about mass incarceration, you have to care about skewed funding priorities. These were not college writings. This was about 8 months ago that you wrote this to the Senate. By any measure, that's advocating defunding the police, and yet today you're telling this committee you don't support that.
I don't support defunding the police. I've been very clear about that. I have enjoyed, if I may, sorry?
Were the quotes I read inaccurate?
Well, let me, if I may, can I tell you what those statements reflect conversations that I've had with sheriffs around the country, police officers, police chiefs, civil rights activists, who have been talking to me for years.
With all due respect, I don't believe you have been speaking to sheriffs who are advocating for defunding the police, and I've spoken to far too many sheriffs to find that credible. Thank you. Look, the Democrats understand they're in trouble. Abolishing the police is stupid. The American people know that. By the way, African Americans and Hispanics overwhelmingly oppose abolishing the police. And so suddenly these rich white liberals that said, let them eat cake, let them be without police, are realizing, oh no, this is unpopular. And so they're trying to claim these aren't the droids you're looking for. They've never supported it. It's absurd. It's ridiculous.
I do not support defunding the police. The impetus for writing that op-ed was to make clear that I do not support defunding the police. And I spend considerable time talking about the need to channel resources to places such as mental health treatment to alleviate some of the burdens that we place on the doorstep of law enforcement.
Ms. Clark, let me, and we have limited time, so let me, you say you don't support defunding the police. You just said it twice. The title of your article was Defund the Police, but let's not just look to the title. Your article begins by saying that the national protests we saw last year, quote, opened up space for transformative policy discussions. You then continue to write, into that space, and this is a quote, into that space has surged a unifying call from the Black Lives Matter movement, defund the police. Do you really believe defund the police is a unifying call?
I don't support defund the police.
I'm reading from your article. Do you disagree with your article?
Amidst the demonstrations and protests, I wanted to provide a different perspective. I don't support taking away resources from police and putting communities in harm's way. There's a rise in hate crimes and extremism.
Ms. Clark, you know you're testifying under oath here.
Please allow her to.
You just said a moment ago.
Senator Cruz, please allow her to complete her answers.
Well, I'm not going to allow her to filibuster, so I'm going to ask a question. If she wants to answer the question that I asked, she can do so, but I'm not
She should be allowed. I hope you'll show respect to the witness and
I
allow her
will
to
show respect to every witness, but we also have limited time, as you're aware, and you've been on this committee long enough to know that witnesses, in avoiding questions, will try to filibuster on different topics. So I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to expect answers to the questions I ask, and I understand the chairman wants to jump in and defend the witnesses, but that's your prerogative to try to do so.
I will defend witnesses on either side and members on either side. We will be respectful in this committee. I hope that all members will.
I hope and expect the same standard will be applied to senators on both sides. Because both of those nominees, two of the leading advocates for defunding the police, were confirmed when every single Democrat in this chamber voted to confirm them. 100%. The next time you see a Democrat describing themselves as moderate, reasonable, not one of those crazies, saying things like defund the police, maybe you should ask them why they voted to confirm two of the leading advocates for defunding the police to senior positions at the Department of Justice.